What kind of father do you want to be? What kind of man do you want to become for your family and for yourself? If you've ever wondered how to step into the fullness of your role as a father, husband, and man of God, then you're in the right place. Here at The Father Difference, our mission is to inspire and equip men to be the best fathers they can be. It's a powerful mission. And today, we're going to explore exactly how you can take steps toward that calling. Whether you're a father, a son, a husband, grandfather, single dad, stepfather, or just looking to grow, I believe God has something powerful for you in today's message. Whether you're tuning in live or watching this later, we are so excited to have you here. If this is what you're looking for, then subscribe so you can tune in each week to The Father Difference Live. You can sign up below. And now, your host, a husband, father, grandfather, author, and former NFL player, Pastor Ed McGlasson.
Well, welcome. We got a banner on here we got to turn off here. And there we go. Welcome. Good to see you. I'm your host, Tandy McGlasson, and can't wait to be with you dads out there. Welcome, Frank. Different men signing in. We're on Rumble, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, a couple of Facebook pages. So grateful to be with you tonight and share with you on what every child needs from their dad. What does every child need? This is going to be a two-part message. I'm going to share a few things that was learned. But now that we're kind of a day and a half away from Father's Day, what were some of the things that impacted you the most with your dad? Things that they did that either unlocked you or hindered you, but they were still significant. Would love to see that in the comments below. I'd love to hear about those things or those things that you love about your dad, because dads aren't supposed to be perfect. And so they do a lot of things in hopes of trying to help their kids, some good, some bad. But, it just, there are things that shape you in your story. And I wanted to start out by telling you a couple of stories of some of the things that shaped, places inside of me as a man, that some good, some bad, and even the bad things I end up trying to do. But in trying to answer this question, what does every child need from their dads? And I mean, the answer is obvious, is that they want your attention. They want to know you see them. They want to know, your sons want to know, do I really have what it takes? Your daughters want to know, Dad, am I beautiful? That you have these questions they're born with, that God's put part of that answer, along with your wife, in you to really help shape the life of your sons, to shape the life of you with your daughters, preparing your daughters maybe for an amazing man in their story one day. And so it really matters what you do. It matters the kind of man, it matters the kind of life you live. So anyway, there were two events in my childhood that were really significant for me. And it was the best of my stepdad. He had some other moments that we don't need to talk about. But I want to share about just the positive things that, because no dads never do anything. Although there might be some, you might say my dad was just, wicked, broken. But there's influence that happens from fathers, whether they realize the impact they're having or not. And so there's things that we all love about our dads, and there's things that we've been hurt by, that we need to forgive them and to get past that and learn more from God the Father about ourselves. But so when I was just a young guy, somewhere around 10 years old, And my stepfather comes home from work. He's a submarine commander. We're living in Key West, Florida, and a beautiful place to live years ago. Now I think it's kind of going to the dogs. It's not the same kind of family place. But we lived on the Navy base, and they had homes, officers' homes, around the beautiful kind of inlet, and so one night, my dad comes home and says, "So, what do you want to do with your life? What do you want to be?" That's a pretty big question for a little kid, and so I love that he loved football because he was a football player at LSU and then the Naval Academy. And my birth father was also started out as a football player at the Naval Academy. So I guess we had some football in our bloodstream. And I said, I want to be a pro football player one day. And he smiled at me, didn't say a word. And at the next morning at dark 30, my stepdad had gone out to Sears and bought an air horn, a pair of ankle weights, and a pair of shorts, tennis shoes, and a shirt, and wakes me up at 5:30 before work, comes into my room, takes the air horn and goes, "Meow. Today's the first day of building a ladder to your dreams, one rung at a time." I was barely awake. I have a faint memory of this moment, but I remember him strapping the ankle weights on my skinny legs and throwing on socks, brand new Keds tennis shoes, and those are the shoes of the day, and a shirt. And he takes me and he goes, "Come on, let's get in the car." And he'd never done this before. I said, "Where are we going?" He goes, "Well, son, if you're going to be a professional football player, you got to be a great runner. So I'm going to wake you up every morning when I get up, and that's dark 30, 5:30, got to make your bed, be ready to go. And I'm going to drop you 5 miles from the house, and you're going to run home 5 days a week. And I'm going to cook you the best doggone breakfast you've ever had in your life. Anything, steak, eggs, blueberry pancakes, waffles, whatever you want, I will cook it. But you got to run home for breakfast." And so I was kind of excited. I'm going to play football. I don't understand anything about ladder to your dreams. And so he woke up my brother Daniel too, and he went out, and I was determined to run the whole thing. And I remember the ankle weights were oversized. They're more for an adult. So they would slide up and down my legs, right to the knees sometimes. And if I had any hair in my legs, it was shaved off at the end of the run. And I made it. My poor brother Daniel, he ran for about a half a mile, started crying. He was younger than me, and he didn't want to run anymore. And so my dad picked him up to his chagrin and just said some pretty hard words to him, and then picks me up, looks for me, and I ran and made it all the way to the house. So he cooks me this great breakfast. Well, the second day, I was so sore that my eyelids hurt. You know what I mean? Anybody ever start a new workout routine and you go too far, too quick, and there I was, and so he drops me off. He leaves Dan in the bed, and my brother Daniel, and drops me off. And I'm thinking to myself, man, I'm never going to make this run. And so I thought maybe I just hitchhike for a couple miles, and I kind of run in, throw some water on myself, and we'll call it a day. Well, I guess my stepfather really understood who I was, and so he had taken a U-turn that I did not know, and I put my thumb out to hitchhike, and there he was, slows down and goes, "I'm watching you." I don't think I've hitchhiked from that day in my life. Made it home, and 5 days a week. Now, what I didn't know in the midst of that, he was teaching me something about structuring my life towards something. And it's an important, it's a powerful thing. Even if I didn't play professional football, I had a track on where it might be possible. And one of the things that every kid needs from his dad is to help them with structure to be able to fulfill a dream in their life. And part of it is, I wouldn't say, hey, I'm going to drop you 5 miles from the house and cook you breakfast and you're going to play in the NFL. Who knows? But my dad used those words with me. And I believe them, because when your children are young, they want to know that you believe in them, and they want to know that they can do something that's way beyond them. And so one of those first things that every dad can do is to really bring the faith level of your children up by helping them, by giving them a structure to build their dream. I mean, one of the craziest things that's out there today is that, I hear this from young people all the time. I want to become a gazillionaire, or, make a lot of money and retire when I'm 20 playing video games. And they go, you know how much money they make? And it's like the goal of, I said, but yeah, but look at these people, the way they push their bodies, their adrenals, the way they eat, the kind of people they are. And they're playing a game where you're not actually driving a car. You're not shooting a gun. You're not pushing yourself. You're actually living in this kind of imaginary world. And I've seen this with young kids that are just incredible. And the ones that I see that excel the most in the high schools that I get to speak at times, and in the colleges, and especially in the National Football League, were those dads who were really present in the life of their sons and gave them a track to run on. I mean, I set the goal. He asked me what I wanted to do. And he then participated with me, and he helped me kind of stay in that moment in their life. And so when, Edward was a sophomore in high school, I tried that question out on Edward. I said, Edward, what do you want to do? And he looks at me and he says, Dad, I want to be a professional golfer and play on the PGA Tour. I said, really? He said, yeah. I said, you want some help? Very important next question. I didn't just go to Sears or to a shoe store and then buy everything and then put it on them. And I said, you want some help? I needed permission, because with teenagers, as a father, what they need most from you is they want to know that they get to vote in what you're asking of them. And I said, sure. And I said, well, if we're going to, if I'm going to invest the money in clubs and lessons and travel and all kinds of things, I need to have some level of personal agreement between you and me, kind of like a contract. If you're going to be a professional athlete one day, I need to have a contract. And so I let him set the terms. And so I said, what do you want me to do? What's my job? He says, well, Dad, and I shared with him the story I shared with you about me running early. And I said, to be a great golfer, because you're starting really late. A lot of your friends have started playing golf when they were like 6 years old. Tiger Woods was 3 years old on the Bob Hope show. And so I said, you got to work on your short game. So what if I took you every morning early before school and dropped you at the golf course so that you could practice your short game and your putting, which is about 75% of golf, And then when you get into high school, and I'll help you all through high school, you'll get 2 practices every day. You'll have your practice with me in the morning, and then your practice with your team in the afternoon. But secretly, you know that you've had a practice that nobody saw. See, part of what your kids need from you is they need, help and structure to help them build something in secret that they don't have to talk about to anybody, that they're building for another day. And so I said, so we made a contract. The contract was pretty simple. I said, so if I'm going to do this, I need a couple of things. How many balls are you going to hit a day? So we had a number. So I could check in at the driving range to see that he checked out and did this. And so he told me what he would do. And I said, so what do you want out of this? What's our financial agreement here if it's a contract? He goes, when I turn 16 years old, I want a car. I said, okay, signed the deal, and woke up early with my son Edward 5 days a week to get him to the golf course. And there's times that we didn't do 5 days a week. There's sometimes it's 3 days a week. But what your son or your daughter needs from you, Dad, is they need help choosing and focusing. Because one of the dilemmas they have is they have a highly addictive ADHD device to where they can watch people all day live a life but never experience what it's like. They can, if you've seen that new, she's not completely new, but this amazing women's basketball player who had 8 3-pointers in her last game. I mean, she's amazing. And I've watched too many young, teenagers spend all their life on video games, and they've never shot a basketball. They've never caught a football. They've never run a lap around a track. They've never built anything. Now, here's the secret: with their dad. The second part is not only to help them find some structure, but it's something you do with them where you're celebrating them and you're helping them as they invite you in to this story, because there's ups and downs. I mean, I got to carry my son's bag at the, at different tournaments, and he went to the U.S. Amateur at Pinehurst, where they just had the U.S. Open. Not Pinehurst, but Oakmont, the hardest golf course I've ever seen, and walked around and watched him play it. And so I was present. And part of that is that there are things that God ended up doing in my life to where in my early life with my kids when they were little, I was spending all my time trying to make a living, go out there, travel the world, spread the gospel, do all these things. But I wasn't present with my kids. I didn't know how to be present until I, started to rediscover some of those things that my stepfather did with me, which, that moment in Key West, Florida, that summer on the naval base shaped, things in me that I still have today. And I'm so grateful, because your children, they need somebody who's lifting their arms up. You might just be a mom, in a story with a single mom with a son. And I got to tell you, I know for a fact that the biggest influencer in the National Football League at this moment aren't great dads, it's great moms. And I can't tell you how these moms did everything they could to position their son into the right place. I mean, Michael Jordan, loved his dad, but his mother was the astute one that got him the contract at Nike with a friend of mine who was on that team. And he talked about Jordan's mom, how astute she was, and how she was so committed and such a believer in the gift that God gave Michael to play basketball that she was there, took him to all the tournaments, and she was present. So there's this piece of fathering and mothering. It's all about being present in the life of your kids. And when you're present, it says something to them. It communicates their value and their worth because you're there. Even when you sort of do it badly, I'll tell you one of my bad fathering moments. Well, every summer, my wife's family had a beach house in Newport Beach, and they would trade it with an accountant's family, their family accountant, for a cabin up in Bridgeport, California, which is above Yosemite. And they had a cabin, one of the 6 homes on the lake at that time, on forest land. And we go up there fishing. And there was a lot of bears around there. And so my kids were really afraid because the bears were coming in at nighttime and smacking the cans around. And so I thought it'd be fun. I said, son, I'm going to take you into bear country. I'm going to teach you how to face a bear. And so if a big bear comes up and we'll go out fishing, man, you get low, but you don't back down. Remain eye contact with that bear. And if you don't run, because if you run, he's going to eat you. So my son was already a little scared, and he's just a little guy. And so he goes with me, man, he is like on my hip, we're just walking, and we're hiking past the village there in Bridgeport, Upper Twin Lakes, Bridgeport. And I go in, and I know that, the middle of the day, the chances of us seeing a bear are slim to none, that they come in at nighttime. They're up there foraging and eating berries and whatever stinky up there they can eat. And we come around the corner, and I'm talking. I said, now, son, you stay on my hip. And if a bear raises up to charge us, we don't run. We get low, and we hold our ground. Okay, Dad. Okay. So then I go around this corner. We go around this big rock, and now it's a tighter path. We come around, and right there on the path, of course, the more I tell this story, the bigger the bear is. It looked kind of a chocolate brown bear, goes up on his hind legs and roars at us. Because I think I scared him, because I guess he saw how big I was. He thought I was a human bear, and he roared at us. And I looked at Edward and I went, run! And he goes, no, Dad, he'll eat me. I go, run. I grabbed him, and we're running across the field. And the bear made a few, and then got to the edge of the meadow. You don't want to get into the hot sunlight. It's about 90 degrees out. He looks around and goes, it's not worth eating those two, and stops, and we run home. And I mean, Edward's like, I can't believe you almost got eaten by a bear. And so we get back to the house, and he runs up the hill, goes to his mother and said, Mom, a bear almost ate me. Dad told me to go low. We didn't go low. We got scared, and we ran from the bear. I almost died. Oh my gosh. My wife looks at me. You know that look, guys, where you better sleep with one eye open, because she might come in there when you're sleeping and go whack. It was such a great story, and because part of what, and it's what the show is about today, it's really about learning how to be present in the life of your son or your daughter in the way you really need them to be. Because first of all, I want to say is you're really important to be in his life. I can't tell you the statistics of just, what happens when a dad's not present in the life of his son. me see if I can find this really quick here in my book. I know it's in here, and I mean, just the result of kids without dads is just devastating. And so, just being in the life of your children can change their whole trajectory and their whole future, just by you being present and being there. Let's see if I can find this. I thought I had it marked. I don't. Well, the statistics of crime are just through the roof of children having premarital sex early and getting pregnant, like 80%. Child poverty, children who are raised without their birth father in the home, are 75% more likely to end up in poverty in their life. Because they have mom, but they don't have the audience of that guy, that father, that is paying attention to their story, that's in their life. Suicide, depression, just amazing. I mean, all the issues around LGBTQ, all those, all the attempt of, people to help children who suffer from not knowing who they are, and then they offer them these choices they can have. And the only problem is that that's supposed to be the role of a dad and a mother. And ultimately, it's the role of God, the Lord God Almighty. He's made us biologically with a purpose and a gender, and he purposes for us and life for us. And somehow, in the midst of God's economy, it's really important for moms and dads to be present in the life and the story, present enough to be a part of their story. And when you're a part of your kid's story, it is the greatest feeling in the world as a dad and as a grandpa. I mean, one of the joys of my life is that my children, they call me to check in and ask me questions. Tell me what they're doing. In a lot of ways, they're sort of addicted to me being a fan in their story. They love it. They love it when I'm there. And why that's so powerful is the more you learn to be present in there, and what is that? What every child needs from a dad is to have a present, loving dad who's paying attention, who's a part of that child's story, and helps them build structure to, be who God's maybe called them to be. And throughout history, there's been amazing stories of children doing extraordinary things, and there's either a mom or a dad there that's the biggest fan of that child, that's present enough to help them the way they need to be helped and support them the way they need to be supported. Can make all the difference in the world. And because the formation of their character, their persona, how they carry themselves. And, I had my stepdad who, kind of end with this story. I was just about 14 years old. And my stepdad was going to leave on the Med, on the submarine, to which he would leave for 4 or 5 months to go to the Mediterranean Sea, and they would patrol, because we had, different, pacts with nations for protection, but he was a submarine, so they're on the water. So he's getting ready to leave. His boat is the USS Tyrannyfish, and he's on the conning tower in dress whites. His men, his crew that aren't operating the submarine, who pulled out of the berth, are all lined up. The band is playing, and the sailor in charge of the engine feeds in an additive into the diesel fuel. It's a diesel submarine, and red, white, and blue smoke come out of the exhaust in the back of the ship as they're pulling out. The Star Spangled Banner's playing, and a Navy fight song, and and all the well-wishers are there. And I'm there with my mom saying goodbye to my dad, who's up on the conning tower. Now, you got to understand, this is not, I mean, he's up, about 50 feet above the deck of the ship. And he realizes that he had made a crucial error in, getting on the ship and getting us there, and that he had drove the Volkswagen Bug that we came in, and the keys to the car were in his pocket. And so he realizes it, and he grabs the bullhorn, because his dilemma is, my mother refused to drive a car with a third pedal. She said she was a proper Southern woman. She always wore dresses, and it was beneath her to drive a stick shift. And so he grabs the bullhorn. Ed! I hear his name. The Navy band is playing. And he holds his keys up, and he goes, drive your mother home, and throws the keys from the conning tower towards me. And I put my hand up, and left hand, I caught him up here. I'll never forget that. I even feel him as I'm telling this story. And I looked at my mother. Here's the problem. I was 14 years old. I'd never driven before. That's the first problem. And so I looked at my mother. I can't believe, because I felt this affirmation. When a father says to a son, you can do this. And when a mom's even in that place, and, it hits that believer inside that child that he needs to have a fan in the stands. That did something to me. I grabbed it, and I looked at my mother, and I said, Jean, which was her name, which I never called her because she was my mom. Jean, get in the car. I'm driving you home. And she looks at me like, boy, I'm going to pull out the hairbrush when I get home. My mother would hit me with a hairbrush, and I just go like, what was that, a flea? So she gets in the car, she straps in. Now, there is no shoulder harness, just a lap belt. And my dad, he thought he'd upgrade the knob on the stick shift, and it had direction. So I was really grateful, but it was overturned on there because of the set screw. So they were sort of sideways. And so it looked like reverse was to the left, and it wasn't down and back. And so I pushed in the clutch, because I watched him do this. And I pushed in the clutch. I turned the key over, and I pushed my foot back on the clutch. It was in gear, and I launched it forward like 6 feet. Whoa, whoa, whoa. And there was a bush there, and I sort of ran over a bush. And my mom is like riding me. And I'm telling her to be quiet. I'm not scoring any points. I finally figure out reverse. I get in reverse. And so it's a combination of faith with your foot and the gas at the same time. So I'm backing out, and it's whoa, 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 whoa. I finally try to get it. I get it in second gear, and I'm not quite releasing the clutch all the way. It's my first time. I had no lesson. And I finally get going, and it's my mother just like in the passenger seat, she's just snapping back and forth. And she just, it's like she's just getting whiplash. And I still remember her going, could you please stop doing this? And so I'd finally get it going, drive home all the way in second gear. It was only about 2 miles away. And I got home and I made it. I can't tell you how powerful that was for me at 13 years old. Because my stepdad, whether he realized it or not, was calling me out and trusting that I was going to do it. And one of the things that every child needs from their dad, and if you're a single mom and your mom, is this place where you trust them to do something that's beyond them, and you're just celebrating the heck out of them in the midst of it. And it was hard. I mean, it was absolutely hard. It was hard in my story, for many years, running home for breakfast. But he kept me in the game. He kept focusing me, and he bought me a poster of Roger Staubach and Bob Hayes, Dallas Cowboys, fastest man in the world, and Roger Staubach, who became an idol to me that I met years later. And that was in my bedroom. And he helped me focus on that. And because he was present. He didn't ride me and forced me to do that, because I made the choice to want to do it. But he helped me stay in the game when I wanted to quit and do something else. Because every one of your kids has got to learn that there is a price that you pay to be great at anything, to follow through with anything. And you know it. I mean, our generation, we had to learn that with our parents. And many of us had to learn it without parents in our life. And yet today, children, they want an instant home run. They want to do it with their finger on a phone in a game, but they never experience what it's like to shoot a basket with a guy right in your face, and you spin around and it's nothing but net. Whether it's sports, art, writing. And so what I did for my children, and I'm so grateful for this, it was something that God began to work deeper in my heart when I ultimately discovered that he was the father through his son that was rooting me on the most, is I created places in my house on purpose so my kids could thrive. My daughters were into music, so I built them a little music studio, not super expensive, but something. And the secret was going in there and singing with them, encouraging them, and then bringing them up on the stage to sing in front of my whole church. They were so good. They were so good. So the first thing I want to share with you, just to think about, where are those places in your son or daughter's life right now where you are really present to help them? Now, let me just put one little caveat on this before we get off our live show, is that it's really important that your personal identity isn't attached to the output of your children's performance. Okay? Because being around sports like I was, I watched one of the best young Korean golfers get harshly disciplined on the 18th green when he didn't win the tournament. And we never saw that kid again. Incredibly gifted. Because the audience somehow made his family's legacy about the performance of his children. But when you make your family legacy about you being present in your child's life and let God choose the level of success or impact, I mean, that's our own story. We're called to great things. And what I mean by that is everything that God calls you to do as a mom or a dad, you need God's Spirit and his word and Christ in you to be able to do. Those are the great things that God's called us to: loving, serving, in the midst of even the storms of our own life. And so this kind of small little, coaching time is all about you and how present you are with your kids. So what do you do if you've pushed them too hard and pushed them away? Well, we've talked about this a lot. It's really the superpower of you going and asking for forgiveness. And it's the quickest way to rebuild trust with your children. And getting that done before they leave the house is a whole lot easier than when they leave and they're mad and bitter at you and they choose to sabotage your lives down the road. But that's another topic of how you win back a daughter or son who's just kind of fallen off the cliff with their own persona, identity. We're going to be dealing with in this next month and a half or so with how do you minister to a child who's gone away to college and comes home and thinks they're gay, or one of the LGBTQ monikers that the world and the devil's trying to place on our children. And how do you deal with that? How do you minister to them and help them off the edge of the abyss? So we're going to talk about that. But I want to pray for you in closing today. I want to pray for you and you just being a present, loving, pursuing dad, where you build your life. And one of the things I do with my grannies is that, I'm also an artist, a painter, and so I'm teaching them to do art when they come over, and boy, it really teaches me a lot. You know how you learn something in fathering, you want to have to learn again, and then you're a grandpa. Now you learn a whole new set of skills. But it's such a joy when I see them win, when I see them begin to discover that they're really special to God. And so we'll talk about grandkids in the future, but maybe you've got a son or a daughter that's far away from you and your family's suffering, or you're a dad and you're disconnected from your kids and you want to reconnect. Well, there's a number of things that I would like to it just gets you to think about. One is that keep hanging around on this series that we're doing in June. And it's going to go into July because it's such a big thing on fatherhood. But if you've not gotten my book, the How to Become the Husband and Father You've Always Wanted, it's a book about the nexus of the things that God has done in me as a man. And in a real way, I could, retitle this, What Happens When God Refathers You and Teaches You How to Become the Husband and Father Your Family Needs. I mean, he changed so many things in my family. And it's a book for promise. You can get that on our website. You can get that on Amazon Books. If you're in a foreign country, we have a number of you from different places in the world. You can get that. It'd be an honor. And I also have a daily devotional, just kind of a nugget that you can get every single day. If you go to my website at thefatherdifference.com, that's a free devotional for you. And it's kind of a devotional of my own time with the Lord and the things he begins to sow and speak into me. And would love to share that with you as well. And all that to say, and here's the great promise of today. I've learned one thing over and over in coaching and families and et cetera. It's never too late for God to come in and do such a work in you that you get to become the father maybe you've always wanted to be. And maybe the father that your wife dreams of. and wants you to be, and maybe is trying to help you, which it's really hard when we get too much help from our loved ones. But maybe you're here going, I want to be a better dad. So make that your commitment today. And be a better dad this week by being present, maybe getting some time with your kids and let them talk about their dreams and resource them and help them even find a dream. And we'll talk about that next week. So I want to pray for you. Father, I thank you for my friends. I thank you for just the life they have, the impact they have. And I pray, Lord, that you would just continue to minister to them, use them, and heal their relationship with their kids. And make them present dads who are part of their kids' story. No matter what their bosses say, let them be those children. I was with a man who, in coaching, Lord, and told me that I have the kind of job that just kept me from being a good father. And I said, really? I mean, what if you would have told your boss that you're going to leave early because you're going to go home and go be with your son who's not seeing you in 2 weeks because of your trips? We'd get enough dads doing that. Some of these bosses, they're going to be taken back and they're going to go, well, yes, you know what? I haven't been spending time with my kids either. So, Lord, I pray you would use my friends that are watching. I pray that you would connect us together. And I ask you, Lord, to be with them, heal their stories in the name of Jesus. Amen. Hey, if you're in a place where you're this kind of spurred on some questions and you'd like some from coaching from yours truly, I'm looking for it right now. It's part, you can actually go to my website at thefatherdifference.com. And I would love to get some time with you and to share with you. So I'm looking for it on the screen. That's why I'm looking away. So I actually don't see it in our thing. If you go to thedifferencethefathermakes.com, you'll see a free coach on coaching on the top. There's an access to get a free session with me, and we can work together and see if that's something you'd like to do. It's one of my loves in my life to help guys like you become the best husbands and fathers you can be. And some of the pastors that show up to these things, be the best pastor and spiritual dad to your church and your city you can be. So anyway, thanks for being with me. It's a little outro video. We'll talk a little bit about our academy, our Fatherhood Academy, that if you're interested, we'd love to have you be part of that. It's all about coaching and learning to be the best dad you can be and to help men around you as well. So all that to say, I'm going to play this outro. I'll see you next week. The Lord bless you.
Dear friends, imagine a world where every father feels equipped to lead with faith, love, and purpose. A world where families thrive and communities grow stronger because of devoted, Christ-centered fathers.
You know, beloved, that is the vision that God's put in my heart for every single family. You know, he is on the move, I believe. He promises in Malachi that before the great and coming day of the Lord, he's going to do something profound. He's going to turn the hearts of fathers back towards their children, so the hearts of their children will turn back to their father. That's what God is doing. I meet dads daily who want to learn to be better fathers, yet many have never been shown how. Too many families are being fractured through bitterness, and with parents and grandparents even being canceled. That's why we're launching an online community to equip men to be the fathers that God has called them to be. It's more than a program. It's a part of a movement that God is already doing to reshape fatherhood as a sacred calling rooted in the teachings of Christ. And we're calling this the Fatherhood Academy. where men will embark on a journey of healing and spiritual restoration that helps them transform their family relationship. And to make this vision a reality, would you consider partnering with us financially as we continue to reach and disciple every man, dad, and grandpa that comes our way? Your donation will help create a ripple across the neighborhoods, communities, and ultimately our nation, anchoring each child, here's the vision, in the unwavering love and guidance of a devoted dad.
Will you partner with us? Your gift, whether a one-time donation or ongoing monthly support, will help to transform lives. Together, we can equip fathers and grandfathers to lead with faith and create a brighter, hope-filled future for generations to come.
Click the link to donate today. Thank you for believing in this mission and joining us on this transformative journey.